Hi, this is me, Tony, and this is another Phoenician inscription for you on my YouTube channel and also on my Odyssey channel. This is my first new video for this year, 2023. Cyprus, Sardinia, and Corsica were all islands of the Mare Nostrum, Mare Punicum, il Mare dei Fenici. We have here the flag of the island of Cyprus, the flag of Sardinia, the flag of Corsica, and the Phoenician flag. All these islands were or harbored Phoenician colonies, and the Mediterranean Sea was, in a way, before it was the Roman Sea, it was the Mare Punicum, the Phoenician Sea. Our inscription today is taken from the Corpus Inscriptionum Semiticarum, otherwise known as CIS, C-I-S. And this is a page from this book, which I took from Academia Online. And the inscription of today is the inscription 44A, which is this one. This is the inscription, says 44A. I tried to enlarge the image as much as I could, but that's the maximum that I could reach. I am not sure whether you can read this inscription, but at least you can guess the letters and you can have an idea about how this inscription was written. So this inscription was actually inscribed on stone, not written on papyrus, but inscribed on stone. And I have tried to write it to you, copy it to you with my on Phoenician letters, or the way I write Phoenician letters these days. So we're going to read it for you. The first reading of this inscription in Phoenician. המצבת הזה לאשמון-אדוני שרדיני בן עבד-מלקרת בן רשף-יתון מליץ הכרסים. This is the Phoenician inscription, CIS 44A, written in the modified Latin alphabet that is used by scholars when writing Phoenician, and by using the Hebrew alphabet. So let's start with the second reading using the modified Latin alphabet. המצבת הזה לאשמון-אדוני שרדיני בן עבד-מלקרת בן רשף-יתון מליץ הכרסים. In Hebrew, or using the Hebrew alphabet, third reading of this inscription, המצבת הזה לאשמון-אדוני שרדיני בן עבד-מלקרת בן רשף-יתון מליץ הכרסים. Now I'm going to give you some translations. So we start with the English translation of this inscription. This stele belongs to Eshmunadoni the Sardinian, the son of Abd-Milkart, son of Resheph-Greek, interpreter of the Corsican language. A French translation would read, Cette stèle appartient à Eshmunadoni le Sarde, fils d'Abd-Milkart, fils de Resheph-Greek, interprète de la langue corse. Here in this slide, I'm going to give you an Arabic, Italian, and a Corsican translation. In Arabic, this reads, هذه المسلة تخص اشمون-ادوني السرديني بن عبد-ملكقرت بن رشف-يتون مترجم اللغة الكورسيكية. In Italian, Questa stele appartiene a Eshmunadoni il Sardo, figlio di Abd-Milkart, figlio di Resheph-Greek, interprete della lingua corsa. In the Corsican language, this reads, Sta stele appartiene a Eshmunadoni il Sardo, figliolo di Abd-Milkart, figliolo di Resheph-Greek, interprete della lingua corsa. Comments on this inscription. In this inscription, we have three theophoric names. The first name is the name of the owner of the stele, Eshmun-Adoni. Eshmun-Adoni is a theophoric name containing the name of the god Eshmun, the god of Sidon, the god of health, and Adon means master, and the I is the possessive pronoun, so Adoni is my master. Abd-Milkart, the servant of the god Milkart. Abd is servant, and Milkart is the god of the city of Tyre. The name Milkart also has two parts in it. It's the first part is milk, which means king, and Qart, which means city. So he's the god king of the city, the famous god of the city of Tyre, or Sur in South Lebanon, one of the major Phoenician cities. Resheph-Yetón, the god Resheph gives, Resheph grant, famous Cypriot Phoenician god. See my video, 3 dedicatory Phoenician inscriptions to the god Resheph, Idalion, 4th century BC. Resheph Alasiotas, or Apollon Alasiotas. Alasia is the name that the Phoenicians gave to Cyprus. Resheph was the Phoenician god that was particularly worshipped in Cyprus and appeared in many Phoenician inscriptions in Cyprus, including this one. Resheph, etymology is not very sure. It could be from the Amorite root Rashab, Yarsab, flame or fever. He is the smiting god of war and pestilence. Rashbu in Akkadian means terrifying and destructor. Identified with the Mesopotamian god Nergal, and later on with the Greek god Apollon, the god of oracles, healing, archery, music and art, sunlight, knowledge, herds and flocks, and protection of the young. Resheph or Resheph or Rashab was also adopted by the Egyptians under the name Reshpu. Resheph Alasiotas, Apollon Alasiotas, had different names. First name we're gonna talk about Resheph Eleita or Eleitas in Greek. Resheph Eleita was worshipped in the city of Tamassos in Cyprus. Resheph Hetz, Rashab of the arrow. Resheph Mikal Ishbiidil, Rashab Hamikal Ishbiidil, or Resheph Hamikal Ishbiidil, Rashab the terminator of Idalion. See again the previous video I alluded to in the previous slide. Resheph Milkart or Resheph-Milkart appeared in a Punic inscription from Gader in Kai 72. Resheph Sporim, Rashab of the birds, from the inscription of Azitiwada from Karatepe. See my video about this inscription, part 3. Here I'm providing you with some photos about this god. I have included these in a previous presentation on my YouTube channel. Here we have the Canaanite Phoenician god Resheph, and we see that he is the smiting god, and he has the form of Baal. He's one of the manifestations of the god Baal. And here we have Resheph Hetz, Resheph of the arrow, but has wearing Egyptian attire and Egyptian crown and Egyptian beard. So he was completely becoming an Egyptian-like god. And here again, we have the same image of the smiting god, but with an Egyptian crown, Egyptian beard, and Egyptian attire. So completely Egyptianized Phoenician god Reshpu. As I said in a previous presentation, everything started in Mesopotamia and Sumer because this was the first human civilization on Earth. And then everything radiated from Sumer westward and eastward. So we have an antecedent for the god Resheph, and he is the god Nergal, the god of war, disease, and death, with a lion-headed mace and sword. And this is taken from a cylindrical seal from the city of Larsa, biblical Elasar in Sumer. Resheph Greek post-cedent was Apollon or Apollo. This bas-relief comes from a tell near my home village in South Lebanon. The tell is called Dwayr. And this inscription now is present in the Louvre Museum. And let's read the description of this bas-relief in French and then translate it to you in English. Ce relief d'époque romaine représente le dieu Apollon accompagné de sa sœur Artemis. This bas-relief from the Roman period represents the god Apollon or Apollo here, accompanied by his sister Artemis. So Artemis was his twin sister. Les différents attributs astraux, le croissant, la torche, le fouet et le taureau à tête radiée les rapprochent de la figuration d'Hélios et Séléné. We see here different astral attributes. We see the horns of the bulls representing the crescent moon. We see here the goddess Artemis holding a flame. We see the god Apollon holding a whip. We see the radiated heads of the bulls. We see here around the tail of this bull, we can see the sun, radiating sun. And here we can see around this, the tail of the second bull, we see a disk, which is probably the moon. And so this again makes, so we have the god Apollon, the goddess Artemis, and we also have the goddess of the sun, or the god of the sun, Helios, and the Selene, the goddess of the moon, all in one bas-relief. Again, we have more symbolism. We have let's read in French. Le palmier, arbre de la vie, a une forte signification symbolique. We have here the palm tree, which has a very significant symbolic meaning. Celle de la grande déesse primitive, dont la représentation entre deux animaux affrontés a souvent été déclinée dans la glyptique, les ivoires et la sculpture. We have here this tree representing the tree of life, or the primitive goddess, or the goddess of earth. And then we have here the two bulls facing it. And this image is rarely seen on ivory and other sculpture. So this makes this sculpture very significant. And I think the dating of this is about 200 AD. And if we connect it to the iconography, the Christian iconography that came after, mainly the Byzantine iconography, we see that the icons contained many symbols, and this what this bas-relief contains many symbols and a very special presentation of this brother and sister Greek gods in the land of Phoenicia at the Roman period. I'm quite pleased that my ancestors chiseled out this from the temple of the gods in Dwayr and gave it to the French, who took it with them to France in 1861. If it remained in Lebanon, would have been destroyed in the war or destroyed by the ignorance and greed of people who would destroy everything and make it into gravel and concrete, everything all over. I don't want to cry. I'm just going to stop now and then move to the next slide. Here we have images of the Greek god Apollo or Apollon. We find him on the left side alone with a gazelle and a cheetah and playing music, because he's the god of music and herds and young people. We see how he looks young. And on the right side, we see him with his sister, again with the gazelle nearby. And these are Greek paintings from the classical Greek period. Despite the fact that this inscription is very short, there is still some grammar that we could learn from this inscription. And what we're going to learn today is the demonstrative Phoenician pronoun azé. So this demonstrative pronoun is usually written as zain, and pronounced as sd for singular masculine nearby noun, object, or person. Is written as azé, mainly in Cypriot Phoenician inscriptions. It is similar to haza in Arabic, they in Hebrew, and this in English. Other forms of writing and pronunciation, especially in Punic, would be sd, esse, se, sith, seth. Azé, they, pronounced as esdo for feminine nouns, haze in Arabic, and zot in Hebrew, this in English. Other forms of writing and pronunciation, especially in Punic, is so, su, sot. Comments on this inscription, the demonstrative Phoenician pronoun azé. Plural form is ele, and it's written as aleph lamed, pronounced as ele for plural masculine and feminine nouns, objects, or persons. It's similar to haula in Arabic, elle in Hebrew, and these in English. Other forms, especially in Punic, is written as aleph lamed aleph, pronounced as ile or ili. So Y in Latin is pronounced as a French E. The form hazé is used very rarely with the definite article ha. So we usually don't say habet hazé in Phoenician. It's commonly used in Hebrew, but in Phoenician we say habet ze, this house, without the definite article ha. In Biblian Phoenician, we have the demonstrative pronoun for that is, further or far away objects or nouns or persons. It is the word zen, and it's written as zain and nun for masculine noun, and written as z and aleph, and pronounced as zo for feminine nouns. The plural form is again elle, written as aleph lamed for those in English, and ulaika in Arabic, hinne, himme in Hebrew. See my Yahomil inscription video with the use of azé and zen in Biblian Phoenician. Here I'm providing you with tables of demonstrative pronouns in Hebrew and Arabic. This part is in Hebrew. So the masculine form is ze in Hebrew, and it's written as zain he. This in English, and the plural form is these and elle, aleph lamed he. The feminine form is zot, written as zain aleph tav. This, as you know, in English we don't have masculine and feminine, so all nouns are neutral. And the plural is again elle. For masculine faraway objects or nouns or persons, it's that in English, and in Hebrew it's written as hu, he, waw, aleph. For feminine nouns, it's he, yod, aleph. The plural form is him, hemma, hem or hemma for masculine, that is for those, and for feminine it's hen or henna for those feminine forms. And in Arabic, for near masculine nouns is haza, ze or azé in Phoenician. We have dual, hazan, and haula for elle in Phoenician. Feminine is zo or esto, and hatan and haula in plural. For far away, we have zalika, then, elle in plural. We have tilka, zo in Phoenician, and Elle for أولئك in plural. Phoenician inscription vocabulary. Hamitzbat, I think we have discussed this in a previous video, the Stele, and Ha is the definite article. There we have talked about it. And then the three theophoric names, اشمون-ادوني, Abd-Milkart, and Resheph-Yeton. So three theophoric names. And we can see here الاسم الثلاثي, as we say in Arabic, the three-partite name. And it's quite typical for Semitic people. And it's still used in Egypt and Saudi Arabia. In Lebanon, we use the name of the son and the name of the father. We don't use the name of the grandfather, but in Saudi Arabia and Egypt, I think they use the three-partite name, or the ism al-sulasi. Ism al-ab, the name of the father, the name of the person, the name of the father, and the name of the grandfather. So we discussed these three theophoric names. We have discussed the word Sardin, Sardini, the person from Sardin or Sardinia. We discussed this in the Nura inscription. Ben is the same in Hebrew because we say, for example, David ben Gurion. So Ben is the word for name, for son in Hebrew and also in Arabic. The classical form of writing it in Arabic is Ibn with Aleph, Be, and Nun. But when used in the three-partite name, the form Ben is preferred to Ibn. We can say, for example, King Faisal bin Saud, etc. So the two words that are new for this inscription is the word milits or melits and hakkorsim, which we are going to discuss in the next slide. New Phoenician vocabulary from this inscription. The first word that we're going to discuss is the word milits or melits, Hebrew melits. It means translator or interpreter. Could also mean, as in Hebrew, scorner, detractor, personal enemy, or political enemy. We see this in the inscription Kai 26a, Ba'bur Ba'alu Ilim Ushabart Miltsim. Thanks to Baal and the gods, and I destroyed my political personal enemies. See my Azitiwada video, inscription part 2. Second word that we're going to learn today is the word Corsim, and it relates to the Corsic language. Dabarim Corsim or Doberim Corsim, the language of the plurality of the Corsic people. Dr. Fadi Stefan, in his book in 1985, translated it as thrones, kursi, kursim, the plural of kursi. Kursi is the throne or seat in Arabic. So he translated it as interpreter of the thrones. But, as we know, kursi is in Arabic and not in Phoenician. Because in Phoenician and Hebrew, the word used for seat or throne is kisa, and the plural is kisot, and there is an absent R. So the translation thrones is inaccurate, and the best translation would be Corsim, which relates to the Corsic language, as per Dr. Charles Krahmelkov. Dabarim Corsim, Dabarim Cananim Ponim. In Act 5, Scene 2 of Penelus, Plautus, 200 BC, included several fragments of Punic dialogue from the Punic translation of Carchedonius into Latin, with a reference to the Punic language as ponim / dabarim ponim, as per Dr. Krahmelkov. I'm going to read this to you in Latin and give you an English translation. And here I'm going to read this in classical Latin and not in ecclesiastical Latin. So we have a dialogue between Milphio and Agorastocles. Milphio says, Quid ais tu, equid come ministi Punice? Milphio, say, do you remember any Punic? Agorastocles, nil edepol, nam quisciri potui, hic mihi, qui illim sexenis perierim Carthagine. Agorastocles, nothing by Hercules. How could I? Tell me, since I disappeared from Carthage at the age of 6. Milphio, quid ais tu? Milphio, say. Agorastocles, quid vis? Agorastocles, what? Milphio, win appellem hunc Punice. Milphio, do you want me to talk to him in Punic? Agorastocles, ange sciis. Agorastocles, you know it. Milphio, nullus me est hodie poenus poenior. Milphio, there is no Punic alive today punicer than I. Dabarim corsim, dabarim cananim ponim. The Punic version of this dialogue, reused by Plautus in verses 1023 to 1017a of the Benelux, reads as follows in the original form. So this is Phoenician, written using the Latin alphabet. And this is a dialogue between Ešaristocles and Milphio. Ešaristocles, mu, Milphio, ponim secartim, Ešaristocles, bal omer, yadata. English translation, Ešaristocles, what? Milphio, do you remember any Punic? Ešaristocles, not a word, you know it. Comments on this inscription. This inscription was found in the archaeological dig of the city of Kition in Cyprus, dating back to about 300 to 400 BC. Tarshish, the colony that was alluded to in the Nora Stele inscription, see my previous video, was built by Phoenicians who came from the city of Kition, the mother city of Kition, or Kitin. So the enterprise that the Phoenicians established in 880, 860 BC, despite the earlier defeat, was successful and flourished over the centuries that followed. We see here a Phoenician from Sardin, from Sardinia, who is well aware of the Corsican language of northern Sardinia and of Corsica. Corsica itself harbored Phoenician colonies like Tarshish, according to Herodotus from the 6th century BC, and later on came under the domination of Carthage until the fall of Carthage at the end of the Punic Wars. These colonies maintained good relationship with their mother city Kition in Cyprus. It appears that many Phoenicians and Corsicans returned to live in Kition to warrant the presence of the official interpreter office of the Corsican language, which Eshmun-Adoni occupied. Eshmun-Adoni was a Phoenician, fluent in Corsican. This shows that the Phoenicians were peace-loving, friendly people and always open to learning other languages and living in harmony with other communities and cultures. Phoenicians were not oppressors, but were nonetheless always ready to fight to defend themselves against their enemies, like the Sidonians against the Persians, the Tyrrhenians against Alexander the Macedonian, and the Carthaginians against Rome in the Punic Wars. Sadly, the Phoenicians were not victorious in these wars, because the war was never the thing that the Phoenicians excelled in. Final comments on the Stele of Eshmun-Adoni. During these horrible days of the economic and political collapse in my home country Lebanon, and in many other countries, including Western nations, there are lessons that we could learn from this Stele. When read in the light of the Nora inscription, the very few words in this inscription give us hope that with perseverance, ongoing work for a common and noble goal, good leadership, adherence to one's identity, culture, and religion, in addition to high morale, everything is possible. So we should always be hopeful and never give up or give in to the intimidation of enemies or any other adversities. We need to keep focused until the end and live our lives to their full potential. These are my references for this presentation. Thank you for watching. and see you next time. God bless and protect you all.